theories.
Yeah.
So that's everything to do with wind. Subjects would be like wind color, location management, wind current, water temps, rising the water, lowering the water, all sorts of goodies and goody stuff.
Bait.
Yeah, bait. There's a whole lot to get to. I don't even really know where to start from.
Well, I think I'd start with a whole concept of, for something that I think about when I fish Berryessa, is which way is the wind coming from, right? If I have a thought of which way the wind's coming from, is kind of where I want to start.
Yeah.
Right. I really don't know why. I'm thinking it's because the wind's blowing into this bank and it could be pushing the bait up against the bank. But that's a thought process that I've done a couple times. Or like when our last Berryessa tournament, when we knew that it was going to be bed fishing, I knew the wind was blowing from the north. I wanted to go to the north because it was going to be the calmer water, right?
Yeah.
So thinking about which way the wind's blowing is how I start the day.
Can change your day.
Yeah.
Some lakes are more sensitive to wind than other ones. And that would be like Clear Lake. I think wind is a major factor on Clear Lake. It's kind of what stemmed this topic.
What's going on, Getsy?
What's happening, Getz? One of the things, like, so for instance, I think I said in the last podcast or one of the ones, so like Clear Lake, if you get like 3 days, 4 days straight with no wind in the summer, that lake can get really tough.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is there's no water currents that run through there because that wind will push the current. I guess we'll get into current, basically. That's kind of what we're talking about. So the one thing about current is that top surface area is going with the wind, but there's an undercurrent that would be the bottom of the lake that's coming back the other direction. So if you drop your drop shot down, you can actually kind of see your line, like your weight goes that way, and then it kind of comes back a little bit, or it just drops dead, depending on how long that wind's been going. If that wind just started up, it's just the surface moving across. There's nothing on the bottom yet moving. But with that said, that like, man, there's so many topics, so many caveats to spin off of it.
Well, it's just like thinking about the Delta, right? Like when you're fishing the Delta, you should be going into the current, throwing your bait up, and bringing it with the current, not against the current, right? Same thing with what you're talking about is like going to Clear Lake, and the wind's been blowing a certain way for a while, right? There's going to be that current in that water, so you should be starting to think about which way should your bait be coming. Yeah. Where should the fish be setting up if it's a current underneath there for that ambush spot? Because that's basically what the whole purpose of bass fishing most of the time is how to get them to eat, put it in that ambush spot.
And then to that effect is bass don't really have a reverse, or all fish don't really have a reverse. Yes, they can go backwards, but not efficiently. So they're always going to be head towards the current.
Yeah.
So if it's coming, if the current is coming this way, that fish is going to more than likely, unless it's behind a rock or some sort of obstruction in an eddy, is going to be nose towards where that current's coming from. Yeah. So you want to match that bait coming through there, and then that eddy, points, brush, docks, all sorts of that stuff is how you're getting that layout,
or that spot where they could sit to ambush out and go get it.
Yeah. Now, with that current coming across there, you're pushing the bait also, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have bait or food coming with that water that's coming across there, and then they're not able to, like the smaller bait fish on a larger current, they're going to take the path of least resistance and head back. They're not necessarily going to constantly swim upstream. They're just going to go with it because their food also gets kicked up and blown into the water and all that. So they might as well go with the wind anyways. And that's how you're getting the compiling on it.
What's happening, Matlock?
What's happening, Medlock?
Yeah, same thing, right? Like that. And then with that, like there's been times, say in the Delta for wind, where it was warm enough to throw a topwater type bait, right? But the wind was blowing. I think you were throwing like a spook, Super Spook Junior, something like that. And I put on a whopper plopper, and I started hammering the fish, right? Something that was just a little bit louder to overshadow what was going on outside.
Yeah. Like that, yeah, with the wind. So that wind is creating the noise.
Correct.
And you switch to the plopper. I mean, a Super Spook Junior is loud, but it's not a big presence. It's not a large, loud noise. Like you have to go to like a Sexy Dog or a Vixen or something with a larger profile in order to really get that slosh if there's chop on the water.
Yeah.
And then like you went to the whopper plopper and you switch to that plopper, and that can make that noise and get that attention through the wind noise on that. And then I've also done that at Clear Lake, not the plopper wise, but switched to a bigger walking bait. Like I was throwing the Junior and catching them. That wind picked up, I was no longer catching them. I switched to the Vixen and that bigger presence, and I was catching those fish again. And all I was doing was just making a louder noise than the wind itself.
Correct.
And I was also picking on areas that the wind was coming towards. Like I didn't want the clear, if there was no wind in that area, I didn't want that area. I wanted to actually have that wind so I could go through there. Matlock asks, Delta has the added element of tides. Can you explain how you position the boat on the Delta if the wind is blowing opposite the tide direction and harder than the tide is moving? So I don't think I made a video from that day. There was a Delta tournament. Oh no, I had to make a video from it because it was an actual tournament. So my partner, I will actually have him come on the front deck with me.
Yeah.
And I'll put the boat, like if this is the bank, right? Imagine that the bank's going this way. I'll actually have the boat nose like this.
Yeah, let it blow by.
And have the engine out towards deep water and just manage that through that. And then that way, if I'm only worried about the nose of the boat, I don't have to worry about the back of the boat. And now I can actually backslide the correct this way I can go, basically. I can control it by backsliding the boat.
Yeah.
Instead of worrying about always going nose forward, there's no rules saying you can't go back reverse basically the whole time. Yeah. And you're just using the trolling motor to
straighten
manage
it out.
Your speed or straighten it out.
Yeah.
So and that's if you have a partner that can come onto the front with you.
Yeah. Which at times you don't, right? Yeah. So you either tell them sorry and
then that's when I'll tell whoever it is in the back, I'll say, hey, you're going to get first crack at them because we're going backwards, but you're going to be out a little distance. Like you may have to make a longer cast, but you're going to get first crack at them. Like you basically get to ride Cadillac and be the front of the boat and not have to worry about wind and trolling motor and all that stuff.
Which is awfully
and let it
nice.
Backslide. Yeah, it's
nice sometimes.
Kind of really nice to be co-angler sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I'll control that on the Delta if the tide is overcoming and they're opposites of each other.
Correct. What do you do if the wind's blowing the same way the current is?
If the wind's blowing the same way, I just kick the trolling motor up and go down. There are times if I'm doing like punching or something where I'm casting straight into the bank and out, I don't care which direction I go, whether I'm going into the current or against the current, and I may slide with the wind and kind of backslide also.
Yeah.
If I'm
let it just do it.
Yeah. If I'm not worried about turret. What about you? Do the same thing?
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you're casting straight into it, it really doesn't matter which way you're going. I'll let the tide drift me. Like if we're punching or throwing a frog all the way in the back of stuff, I really don't care which way I'm going at that point in time, because you're doing a whole complete different bait. You know what I mean?
And there's sometimes with the wind going really, really good, like if it's a really strong wind, if you let the boat go with the wind, it gives you better casting into some of the lanes, because you have a little bit larger window from that direction than if you're trying to go the opposite direction.
Yeah, and you could cast farther too.
And yeah, if you cast with the wind, you can sing that song.
Yeah, you could empty a spool real quick.
Yeah, there's certain,
real quick.
You get that Spook Junior, which I can already bomb a mile. If I go with the wind, I can damn near unload the whole reel.
Yeah. So. There is times though, you definitely want to pay attention to the wind, which way the wind's blowing. There's been multiple times that fishing in an 18-foot boat, launching at, say, Capel Cove at Berryessa, and trying to figure out how much you want to risk or gamble driving all the way to the north end, depending on what the wind's going to do throughout the day.
Yeah.
Even though you know you want to go to the north end, right? Like you have that feeling that you want to go to the north end.
There is definitely watching Weather Channel. I download the Weather Channel app. Yeah. It gives you an hour-by-hour breakdown of the wind. I'll actually look at that and figure out, like, okay, so if I want to fish this area, I need to do it in the morning, because I'm not going to be able to get back or get to there
in the afternoon
quickly in the afternoon.
Yeah.
One of the things on like Clear Lake during springtime is ducking into the creeks or figuring out which way that wind direction is and just go to the non-nasty side, because you can have 5-foot rollers on one side and be wide open, like windy, but it's not nasty.
Like that last tournament we had at Clear Lake in March, day 2, the wind was blowing. I went all the way to the north end, and I couldn't have told you that the wind was blowing. But coming back, it took me an hour to get from Rodman Slough to the Oaks, and I got a 20-foot boat. So it was, but I couldn't tell you the wind was blowing that hard.
It took me almost 40 minutes to get back from County Park to the other. Alicia has a question.
Yeah.
Can you read it? You read it.
Do you find that the higher the wind speed is, the more active the fish are? Is there a ideal mile per hour for wind speed?
I think you have to adapt to it. I don't think there's an ideal mile per hour. I do think that, like, so for instance, A-rig and underspin.
Oof.
I think it needs like 5+ mile an hour wind to really get going.
Yeah.
Like there has to be, it can't be just a little chop on the water. It has to actually have not like a wave going, but like enough to keep that going.
Yeah, to break it up a little bit to where it's harder for the fish to actually see what's going by them. They could feel that presence of that A-rig going by, the vibrations and the flashing, but they can't really see it really good until they get right up on it. And then, but the time they get right up on it, they're going to eat it.
And if there's no wind,
they're going to see that wiry mess and be like, no, I've seen that before.
Yeah, I've seen that before, or that don't look right.
Yeah.
And they'll back out of it.
I do prefer to have some wind most all the time that I'm fishing. I'm not saying that it needs to be blowing, but some wind. One, it keeps it a little cooler for me because, you know, I get hot out there.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely improves the fishing. It moves things around, like what James was talking about before. Those currents, those winds are blowing up on banks. It's pushing the bait up there. It's pushing food for the bait up there. Sometimes even when the wind's blowing and it's blowing consistently onto one bank, you'll start to get that mud line. Yeah. And then those fish are going to use that mud line to ambush and eat that bait.
Now, I've seen 2 versions of that. I've actually seen them as the mud line comes out. They come out with that mud line.
Right.
They stay on the clear side, but they're like right on that edge. And then I've also seen it where when that mud line picks up, It's swear like everything in that whole area goes straight to the mud line,
Yeah.
and they don't even come outside the mud line.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of try both sides. I don't know the difference on it. I'm gonna guess it's bait related.
Yeah.
Whatever they're trying to eat. Like
It's
let's
going
say
one
there's
way or the other.
let's say they're picking up crawdads. Well, now the crawdad can't see them coming. They just rifle around and they can suck them up because the crawdad can't just look for them.
Right.
You know, or if it's just bait getting lost, vice versa versus
Popping out into the clear water and going, oh no.
yeah, or maybe they're using the clear water to push the bait against because they don't want to go into the mud. Maybe
Right.
they're using that as a wall that they're pushing the bait into.
Yeah. But I've heard, we've had people win our open tournaments by the wind was blowing on this side. I picked up a white spinner bait and I fought staying off the bank, but with the boat, but it was lights out and they won the tournament, right? Like
Years ago, I fished with a guy and he was actually throwing a little grub, a little like Callan or Callan, I think is what they are. Just a little like 4-inch, 5-inch grub, and he was just swimming it through the wind-blown banks. Like he wanted 3-foot rollers at Clear Lake is where we were. He wanted 3-foot rollers crashing the bank, and then he'd just keep his boat outside of it and just huck that grub in there, let it wind down, and it was just a real light grub, and he'd just slow roll it, and they'd come up and smoke it, and that was his whole pattern, and that was back when we used to fish individual, but on the same boat.
Yeah.
And he would, every time that bite was on, if I was fishing with him, he would kick my ass, and I'd throw jerk baits, I'd throw all sorts of stuff, and I couldn't get bit, but he could get bit from that subtle presentation going through that crashing.
Yeah.
And it was like a bright color. I want to say it was like white or something like that. It was a super bright color so that fish can just kind of look out and be like, oh, there it is, in all the chaos of the wind, and go pick it off.
I will tell you though, wind, tide, get spot lock.
Yeah, spot lock is your friend, especially if you're culling fish. If you're
dad wants
just trying to stay off the bank, if you break off,
you want to take a nap.
If you're, yeah, I definitely have pulled into cove, spot locked, and taken a nap. No doubt about that one.
Yeah,
that's the best nap aid. But just using the spot lock to be able to stay off the bank, get a couple of casts in. Now I can spot lock and I can go in and net my co-angler or vice versa, whichever it is. It just buys you that time and that security of not having to worry about that.
Yeah.
You do obviously have to worry about if the wind's blowing it and that spot lock's going, your co-angler or your line, if that boat spins, you can suck that line in. That's, I mean, kind of.
Yeah. The other thing, thinking about if you have wind blowing from one direction consistently, right? What's it doing for your water temp?
Yeah, so that's, before we get into that, so like the breaking of the water, so like Alicia was asking like what's your ideal speed, right? I'd probably say like 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Would probably be my overall speed. If I was to pick a speed, that 15 plus kind of sucks to fish in, and that's the way it is mostly at Delta.
Unless you're punching.
Or frogging. You don't want wind then. But basically a lot of that
frogging,
is
I'm gonna go with a pop and frog though.
Yeah, something that makes more noise.
Right.
If you do that.
You could adjust, right? Like that's the whole purpose of or thought process when you're bass fishing is to adjust in those little things to get that bite.
Yeah. But that breaking up that wind, there's times where there's no wind versus is wind, you can use the same bait but change colors. Like you can kind of go through that. Like you pick something a little brighter or a little more neutral or whatever.
Clear.
I've definitely seen a lot of fish when that wind starts up change depth levels, like where they're at. They'll either come up or they'll go down depending on how the situation is.
Which way the wind is blowing.
Malone is like that. When that wind picks up, the fish go from like 20 to like 15, 10.
Yeah.
They'll like actually step up when that wind picks up on those rocky banks and stuff like that.
Probably hoping that that wind's blowing and blowing something out around those rocks to where they can ambush and get it too, right? Like,
yeah. And then to bring us back to watercolor for that, right? You got your water lines on that. But if you pay attention, I don't know if you guys watch Ross England's videos about Clear Lake. He'll talk about, oh, this area has 6 foot of depth of clarity, and this area has like pea soup, you can't see it, and all that. That wind is moving that water around.
yeah,
And when it becomes no wind, that's when everywhere has crappy visibility. And then when that wind goes, or when that wind picks up, it takes all that stuff from that top layer and it pushes it to one side of the lake. And like I was saying earlier, the bottom current is going this way if this is going that way, right? Because you got to replace it. When that water comes up the other side, when it comes up, it's clear because it hasn't had the algae growing inside of it. And that's how you get those clear pockets. Now, what can happen in that is that lower water is colder in the summer.
yeah,
And now it'll push that colder water up. So if you get a situation where like the water's 80 degrees and the fish don't really want to come up in that 80 degrees, you can now find a clear water and that water will usually be colder.
yeah,
And you can kind of figure out where you got to go. And that's why it's kind of hard to pattern them at times with that water pushing around. And it changes those watercolors. And that's the same thing for Berryessa. If you go to the east side of Berryessa and it's clear, there was no wind last night. Like, that's just the way you know if there's wind or not, is whether that's dirty or not. Gets asked, is there a big effect on barometric pressure with wind? I have no clue. I actually don't follow barometric pressure.
I would think it would have some effect on that pressure, right? Because
I know that the storms that cause the wind are already pressure changes, because that's
correct.
All wind is this area of the world is hot, this area of the world is cold, and they equalize each other. And when they're equalizing, that's what wind is, basically.
Yeah.
And then you have your storms and your actual like vortexes that happen. And that's from the centralizing. While those two are swirling with each other, that's how it makes the big swirls and causes the big wind. Long explanation.
Yeah. Hi, Stacy. What's happening?
What's happening, Stacy?
Sucks you're still at work.
Yeah. I'm not at work. Not that I couldn't end up at work today.
Yeah.
At least I'm not right now.
Knock on wood. But yeah, no, the wind is definitely a benefit for me when I'm fishing, and things that I look for, right, is that wind blowing, stirring up the top a little bit to where I could actually present most of the baits that I'm going to be throwing, unless it's those early mornings top water bite where, and when you're talking that early morning, you're talking about that low light anyhow. The wind is that low light breaking up the surface like we were talking about before.
Yeah. And then one of the things that on a larger lake matters, not necessarily like delta or smaller bodies of water, on a really, really big lake like Clear Lake or Berryessa, when that wind blows strong enough, it'll actually stack the water on one side.
Yeah.
So if you have, let's say you have bushes that are like 3 feet deep, they can actually go to like 3'4". Like, it'll stack it another 4 inches up on that side. And the other side where the water's coming from actually drops. So you can actually like, the wind will actually kind of do that, which you can do with your cup. Like, if you have a cup of water, fill it to the brim and just blow on it, you can actually see the far side stack up and the bottom side like down. Well, the reason why you go into all of that is the day after a wind event, let's say it's a really, really big wind event, all that water is stacked on this side of the cup and it's lower on this side.
Mm-hmm.
So when that wind stops, it all goes back the other way and you actually get a reverse current of what you just had.
Right.
So you can actually go back to the same place that you just went with the wind and expect like, okay, they're on this side of the point, but with no wind, they're actually on the other side of the point.
Yeah, because it's going back the other way.
Because the current's actually going. So a lot of the times what I'll do if I don't know which way it is, I just spot lock somebody somewhere and I wait to find out which way the boat swings.
Yeah.
So I basically drive in where I'm like, where I'd be perpendicular to whichever way the current is, spot lock, wait a couple minutes, and then you'll slowly feel the back of the boat spin, and now I know which direction that current is, at least for that area.
Yeah.
You may go to another area and it's opposite, but you at least know that area.
Yeah.
And then again, that's where you go back to clear water, dark water. Kind of, you can
a lot of debris.
You could tell what came, what was less wind bothered than the other ones.
Yeah.
On all that.
You also could tell like which way the wind's blowing, and you like for Oroville, I was paying attention to how the wind was blowing because the Oroville's raised in water level so high recently. There's been a lot of debris, trees, stuff like that floating. So I was trying to pay attention which way the wind was blowing just on driving.
Yeah.
Right? Trying to stay out of those, because there was sections that were just, it was just debris field. It was like going through an asteroid field.
Yeah.
Right? So you wanted
and then just hoping that you don't hit a big chunk and swerving all. I mean, you're driving slow. You're mid-tournament doing 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Just so that you know that you have enough time to get around something.
Hoping not to hit something.
Yeah.
It was a good tournament though.
Yeah, it was a fun, very fun. For sure.
Yeah.
And I was a little worried about ripping off a lower unit.
Yeah.
Now that I know how much they cost.
Yeah.
In case you guys don't know, a lower unit for a 250 Pro XS Mercury, I have a 21 Pro XS, is $13,200. Luckily, covered under warranty. I took it to Berryessa Boat and RV Repair up there at Berryessa, and I'm not saying this is the way it's going to be for everyone, but I dropped it off Monday at 11 a.m. and he called me at Wednesday 11 a.m. about to tell me to come pick it up.
Yeah, 48 hours.
48 hours turnaround at Berryessa Boat Repair. I have not actually heard anything negative about him. A business is a business. It's everyone has their different experiences, but I've definitely heard some really good things about him.
Yeah.
I have used him myself. He actually is somewhat related to the club.
Yeah.
Enough people, or he basically knows everybody from, or the older members from the Bass Club.
Yeah.
And he's learning some new ones too. But if you guys have any issues or anything like that, and you're having troubles, especially taking to these other boat shops, definitely give him a try. Berryessa Boat Repair up at Berryessa. This is not a sponsor plug at all. Well, I'm a very happy customer.
Satisfied customer.
Yeah, I'm a very happy customer that definitely next time I have issues, I probably will go to him straight away.
Yeah.
And I was taking it to Bass Pro Shops, and I won't even, because that was like a, 2 months turnaround or something like that?
Yeah, you were in boat jail for a while.
I was in boat jail for a while, and when I lost my lower end, it was the Monday before a tournament. I had a tournament Saturday, Sunday, and I was up and going by Wednesday. So I have zero complaints about that. And that's up at Lake Berryessa. It's where the old Spanish Flat was, but Berryessa Boat and RV Repair, you can look it up.
Yeah.
It's on Knoxville Road at Berryessa.
Yeah.
I don't even know how we got to that caveat. Oh, the wood and the water.
The wood and the water. With the wind, right?
So part of that, wood in the water, wind. There were certain areas like on Oroville or Malones. There's a couple of different times where that wind actually pushes that wood and piles it into a cove, into a corner, makes little rafts. And you can fish those rafts one of the spots that I fished on Saturday or Friday, pre-fishing on Friday at Oroville, it was fish after fish after fish, and all I was doing was throwing to the edge of the raft and letting it drop down.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't even let it hit the bottom. They were coming out from the raft and just eating it, and it was just, they weren't giant at that time, but it was really fun.
Yeah.
Like,
But that would go right back.
Were just catching so many.
But that's going right back to that wind is a benefit, right? Is blowing that stuff into it. That would be blowing bait towards it, right? And you're throwing right to the edge of it, and they're coming out and smoking it, right?
Yeah,
like it's all that wind. Wind is very important when we're fishing.
That wind's creating the shade. It's with blowing the wood in there. It's creating the water for breaking up, so they can't get as much visibility. The bait doesn't, like, if they have less visibility, the bait has less visibility. And I mean, they're both trained or evolved to be inside that water, but the bass can use it to their advantage.
Correct.
For sure.
Correct. This weekend, Comanche, wind. Which way do you want the wind blowing?
I just want the wind to blow, period. Because looking at forecast, I don't think we're getting much wind.
No.
I just want it to have wind, period.
Yeah, at some point in time.
Actually, Comanche, I got a story for that one.
Okay.
Was fishing one of the northern areas that I fish all the time. I just got forward scan very recently to that. I was fishing an offshore drop, which probably 50 foot deep right now.
Yeah.
Because it was already deep last time.
I think I saw the lakes like 91 to 96%, something like that.
Completely filled. And this was like when the water was way, way low.
Yeah.
I was fishing like an L-shaped drop, and I was going through there, and there was fish on the top of the drop and along the drop. But they were mainly up on top, which is basically feed mode, right?
Right.
So I'm catching fish, but one here, one there, nothing really going. They're kind of swerving the bait. Again, just got forward scan, never really got to play with it. And the wind picked up and a cloud layer came over. All the fish disappeared. No longer could see them on forward scan anywhere in that whole area, and was like, man, something ain't right. And something told me, go shallow. So I actually went shallow, threw an A-rig just to get like, is this a thing kind of thing? Picked up a fish on an A-rig. And then I was fishing with my buddy Steven. He picked up an A-rig. So I picked up a jerk bait. So we had diversity or different changes on there, right? So we're not throwing the same thing. And we just started stacking them like boom, 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 boom. And then it was time for weigh-in. And we called out like 3 or 4 of our fish to some healthy fish, enough that like put us in the top 3. I don't remember if we won or not, but it put us in like the top 3. And all that happened from paying attention to that wind coming in and then the cloud cover coming in. It was like, it made like a dark line in that clouds to where it was bright sunny day. And then all of a sudden you just saw this wall of black cloud, like the evil queen was coming. And when that happened and then the wind picked up, that's when I ran up shallow.
Yeah.
So it was definitely...
That's the thing.
Definitely things to think about, things to change, like that moving around to compensate for that wind or have it work with you is definitely something that you want to do. It can take that whole like shadow shade effect,
yeah,
and it can expand that pattern. Like if there's no wind at all, you're worried about shade and stuff like that.
Right.
If you put wind in there, they're more willing to come out from that shade and be a little more active, and you can pick up more active baits.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think there's been multiple times where there's been no wind, high sun, where all your active baits, the things that you really want to throw and have a good time with, are not going to work.
Yeah, they just aren't. That's like this weekend with Comanche. Unless there's wind, it will be yet again another drop shot tournament at Comanche.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this, but I don't like Comanche.
I like Comanche.
Yeah, no.
I enjoy it.
You can have every bit of them. Does anybody have any questions on all that?
Wind theories.
Anything to do with wind theories?
Well, anything.
I'm not going to talk too much about Comanche because I only have like 3 cards of Comanche, so I can't show too many of them. I don't have a full. I'm not even playing with a full
hold on,
deck of
hold on,
Comanche.
hold on. Nick.
Actually, the water's up.
Yeah, the
water's up. It puts some of my areas back into water.
Yeah.
For the last like
Back into
5
play.
years, most of my Comanche areas have been like, I look at them like, oh, hey, I've caught a fish off that rock, or I've caught a fish off that whatever.
There's different stuff. And yeah, you're only fishing against one person.
Oh, there is something we didn't talk about wind on. Wind in different parts of the lake. In other words, if you go into the Narrows at Berryessa and it's ripping wind, does not mean that Main Lake is ripping wind. Same thing as Clear Lake, same thing as Malone is. Same thing as multiple other areas. That moving around, or don't be afraid to try another section of a lake because you think it's going to be too nasty. If you think that's the place you need to, go try it. And there's times where I've actually gone away from where it's dead still to go find an area that has wind to pick up that bite again.
Look at that, the 4x4 video, the 4-hour
video, the Strait shootout video.
Yeah, there was 4 boats. There was 4 boats out there, and different areas had different wind, right? Like there was one area that 2 boats were in, there was no wind at all, and the other 2 boats had wind, right? Like and that was on Berryessa. That same day, same time, like exact same time. There's wind blowing here, not wind blowing there. Getsy said he's never been. Should be interesting.
To Comanche.
To Comanche. I'm gonna tell you, Getz,
don't need it.
that there's big spots, and they plant Florida strain largemouth in there, and they plant a lot of trout.
Yeah, they plant fingerling largemouth there.
Yes.
By the way, which is basically just spotted bass food and trout food, but at least there's a couple of them that'll survive.
But you could catch really big fish there.
There are some big largemouth on that lake. That is for sure.
Big largemouth. We were there one tournament and somebody caught 11. Not in our club, but caught 11-pound.
One of the RB Bass guys, they had like an RB Bass event, media event or whatever it was that they had.
11-pound
largemouth. There's a guy who caught an 11. So
yeah, and there was a tournament there in June with the club, the last day of the tournament, and there was 3 fish turned in on that tournament, 3 different boats, and I think the smallest was like a 632 out of the 3. Another one was like a 670, another one was a 7.3, right? Like it's very possible that you get a big bite there.
Yeah,
very easily.
Yeah, there's multiple 5+s that have been out of there. I think I've only had 2 got into the boat 5+s from Comanche. I've had a couple more hooked that came off.
I've actually caught a couple. That 6.23 or 3.2 was a tournament fish, and I caught that on a drop shot, straight braid.
Yeah, and that was actually
Comanche.
So that the 7's the largest I've caught out of there, and I was on a drop shot and some sticks and some trees. The lack of wind is actually what I think put them where they were, because the day before there was wind and we were catching them on underspin and all that other stuff, and then that next day that wind died and I completely lost touch with them, and then I just happened to stumble on them basically. Just thinking like, okay, if they were here and now they're gone, where could they go? And I was backtracking, running through there, and then once I figured out what the pattern was and I started running that down, then it was an awesome day. But that was actually, I think, a lot of what changed is the time of the year. It was springtime, getting ready for bedding season, and or pre-spawn. And then the other half of that was that the wind did actually completely disappear. Yeah, like it pretty much laid down that day.
The wind definitely is a factor in fishing, period, right? Like if it's blowing or if it's not blowing. It is something you need to be thinking about. You need to be positioning yourself for it and or changing your baits for it, right? Like
Yeah.
it is definitely a thing to think about, right? Like even in deeper water, it is something to think about.
Yeah, you still have that undercurrent
Yeah.
that's happening. So even though everyone's like, oh, the wind only happens on the top 10 foot,
Yeah.
you still have an undercurrent to replace that water that's moving this way. So you can actually figure that out. If there's certain places in Berryessa that I fish,
I almost said some stuff that
there's certain areas in Berryessa that I'll fish that I want the wind to be blowing a specific direction, and I'm fishing in 40
Yes.
foot.
Yeah.
Like I'm down in 40 foot, but I need that wind to be blowing a certain direction in order for them to set up where I want them to set up,
so you could get them.
so that I can actually, it'll actually like consolidate them. Like they'll be kind of spread out everywhere. That wind picks up for like an hour or so, and then that undercurrent starts going by then. And then it actually like consolidates them. They'll set up into a certain area.
Yeah.
And then you just throw drop shot over the top and just start picking them up because that school's inside there. And then the same thing is there's bait down there deep during this time of the year. And I think it's just moving that undercurrent is pushing that bait down, and they're just setting up for it.
Yeah.
No, that's not the only place that you can do that at. You could do that at Clear Lake. You
Yes.
could do that at Malone's. You could do that at other lakes.
But there is definitely
But I think that the
definitely stuff at
the wind is what starts it. I actually have waypoints in those areas of where to put the boat when the wind is blowing. And I know that if the wind is blowing the opposite direction, I may fish there a little bit, but I've never made another waypoint of where to put the boat to make a cast because I just never get bit there.
right.
And I think a lot of it has to do with that.
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, I think that's... You got anything else? You got more wind stuff?
No, not really. Just be careful out there if it is blowing. If it's blowing anywhere into 30 plus,
Yeah.
be careful.
Yeah, be careful or stay home.
Yeah, stay home.
We're not smart enough to stay
Well, that's
home.
why I bought a 20-foot boat.
Yeah, we've definitely... he's definitely gone swimming in his bibs.
Yeah. And that was a 21-foot boat.
That was a 21-foot boat.
It might not have been my driving.
It might have been the fact that his jacket was inside the pants, not outside the pants.
Yeah, well, I didn't think we were going to go out there. I thought we were just looking at something, and all of a sudden...
That was... Yeah, we probably shouldn't have gone.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't have gone out there.
It was like 8-foot rollers.
We shouldn't have gone.
Like six,
for sure.
6 to 8 foot rollers.
That was at Berryessa too, blowing out
And
of
we
the
were in a
north.
21-foot boat though. So,
Yeah.
where you're just rolling them. You can't even run them. You just had to roll
I was
them.
taking, it felt like 5-gallon buckets were being thrown in my face.
Yeah, it was fun though. Yeah, that did.
We did catch fish. We caught a limit.
Yeah, we did catch fish. We actually caught most of our fish back at the ramp. We didn't even have to go outside.
We went back.
We're at Berryessa.
So, for example, with that, about your currents, we caught fish in a cove at Berryessa the day before during a tournament and did really well. Like we were first place. Day 2, nobody showed up.
Because of the wind forecast.
Because of the wind forecast.
30 to 50 or something like that.
And it was blowing all night.
Down trees across the road.
Yeah, we canceled day 2, but we went right back to that same cove that we went to that we caught all the fish at the day before. And you could see the current was blowing so hard into there that we couldn't fish it.
No, we were actually having troubles. We weren't in the wind anymore, but we were having troubles with boat positioning because it was pushing around so bad.
Yeah, and it was blowing that hard.
When's the next time we're going to Clear Lake? Asked somebody. It dropped away. Asked James Herr.
I'd like to.
I think we're going, I'm not 100% sure, but in June we have 4 open days in June, or like, and I want to go there for one of the 3 or one of the 4. Not
down.
sure what we can get away with though. But I do want to go back to Clear Lake for a couple different reasons. Oh, there's a
Crappie.
there's a crappie tournament June
15th.
We might go to the crappie tournament June 15th. It's not Crappie Chronicles. It's on my phone. I can't even look it up right now. It's out of 5th Street. It's damn it. I'm completely blanking on that. What's the name of that crappie place? They've done it at Barrier, so we talked about
Crappie Closet.
Crappie Closet. There you go. Thank you. Crappie Closet's out of there. He actually messaged me and invited me in. We might do it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we are 100% able to. His daughter's got graduations and some other stuff like that and graduation parties. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do the Crappie Closet one. But if you guys are interested, there's information online or on their Instagram.
James Sir,
look up.
James Sir asked, I'll be there next week. What baits would you recommend at Clear Lake right now?
Glide bait.
Glide bait.
Yeah, glide bait.
Glide bait, mag draft.
Yeah, it should be right in that area. There's so much junk in the water, like trees and all that stuff. But then again, I do go to Clear Lake for the fun factor. Like, if it's not tournament, that's what I'm there for, is to go, like, screw around and throw the baits that I can't throw in a tournament as easily.
Yeah. I would definitely be throwing glide baits, flipping type baits. You're probably still going to find fish on beds.
Yeah, there
in
might
places.
be still bed fish.
Because that lake,
Looks is crazy.
They bed for a long time up there.
Trash fish. Yeah, you could probably get a trash fish bite going. I know that's kind of more pre-spawny.
Yeah.
I know that there's a spawn bite. It's trash fish at Clear Lake. I mean, that's kind of what trash fish is made famous for. I think it's actually originated from Clear Lake.
Yeah. Which glide bait would you throw though?
The glide bait I'd throw would either be the River to Sea 168 in Warden.
Yeah.
Or I'd throw the Shine Glide in Threadfin. Those are probably my 2 go-tos. And then, or the other one is the Flow Glider, the 6 Sense Flow Glider with a shaved joint in Threadfin.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of which, I don't have my knife. I got an unboxing. Ooh, knife. It's like Christmas today, so you guys get like a bonus unboxing. I actually don't remember what I ordered. It was part of the Tackle Warehouse 20% deal. So you guys are gonna find out when I find out. And this is what reminded me. This is the Flow Glider 130 in that Threadfin color. That's actually what reminded me. But if you take and you shave this side of the joint and you just make it completely 90 with the body, it wakes this bait up. If you just throw it original, it's not that good. It actually has good hooks in it too. I don't even change the hooks on these. Another Flow Glider.
New box.
Dobbins Beast. This is actually my favorite spinnerbait on God dang it. Delta. It is shad light blue, chartreuse white. I'm actually gonna bust it out here real quick to show you guys. So if you actually look at this, it's kind of sexy shaddy-ish, but that blue, for some reason, on a spinnerbait with these mixed willows, where you have one gold, one other, and then it kind of, you can swap them in, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the small one gold or any of that. But that's definitely something. This is like my favorite go-to bait. And then I'll throw a Kitech on there with a couple of different 3.8 Kitechs on this. I got these. These are mop tops, or what do they call them? Twin-tailed skirted grub. Is what I got.
I don't know why you bought those.
And then I bought some owner round heads in the small, yes, for hover strolling for you forward scan people. Everything that I have right now falls too fast. This is a 16th ounce, so I can get a slower fall rate. And then I tried, these are Mustad punch hooks that I recently found. They have a welded keeper. So I figured I'd try it. More grubs, more spinnerbaits. And then this is 1/8 ounce in that head. So now I have basically, I have 16th ace,
3/32.
3/16 and quarter. So I have like everything I need to do that. And then this one is one that I haven't tried yet. This is a roller ranger. So the whole point, like this bait was actually designed for hover strolling in a way. And the whole point of it is to have the weight up so that it's supposed to be able to walk better. And it, the weight kind of covers the eye to be able to let you roll through stuff. It doesn't get hung up between the head and the eye. It actually like has like a little ramp to it. I don't know if you guys can see that. You see there's like a little ramp to it so the stuff doesn't get gummed up in there. I don't know. I tried it. These are significantly more expensive than these. So I don't know necessarily how many of these I'll get, but these were like $8 a pack and these are like $5 a pack or something like that. Like it was a couple dollars more. I did see there was another question.
James asked, have you guys ever thrown a wobble head at Clear Lake?
Yes, but not successfully. I know Matt Allen talks about it a lot. I know other people who have thrown wobble heads on it, and they're kind of throwing it in the rock.
Yeah.
That's on there. Not to blow out too many areas, but like Glenhaven and whatever's across the street from Glenhaven. What's that rock?
Buckingham, Shagrock, Point.
Yeah, it's like the north side of, it's in between Shagrock and the Point from Buckingham.
Yeah.
That like bank, people will throw wobbleheads down there, and then they'll also do it down by Rattlesnake. Rattlesnake area though is volcanic rock, and it'll eat a lot of your wobbleheads.
Yes.
You can catch them, but you can also donate a lot of them.
Yeah. I would be thinking, hopefully that some of those fish are post spawn at Clear Lake that you're going to be going up and targeting, and you're going to want to be throwing those bigger baits, maybe 7-inch Cincos, those bigger creature baits, throwing that stuff up in Thule's. If it gets hot, you said you're going up here this weekend.
If it's
next
hot
week
with no wind, to kind of wrap it back to where we're at, if it's hot with no wind, frog.
I'm throwing frogs.
Pick up a frog and...
I'm throwing it deep in that stuff as far back as I could get it.
Yep, and then you're going to focus on shade lines at that point, which if you want to know about shade lines, go to our last live video. For those of you who don't know how to get to the live videos, if you go to my actual channel page, and then you'll have tabs across the top, it'll say like videos, shorts, live. Click on the lives, and if you're this deep into it, you probably have already watched them. Or if you haven't watched them, we definitely say a lot more.
Yes, especially at the end.
He's going June 7th weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Glide baits, frogs.
Glide baits, frogs. I'd even do the freestyle mag draft through the Thule's.
Yeah.
Throw it as far up there as you can and just bring it out. Because if they're setting up at all, summertime, they're up in those Thule's. Spawn, they're up in the Thule's.
And then my colors for that freestyle would be whiteback shad.
Yeah.
And IU.
Yep.
Those would be my two that I would start with. There's other colors on there. There's one called brownie and some other stuff, but the two that I would start with would be whiteback shad first, and then IU second.
Yeah, but I would definitely be that would be a bite that I would be looking for those glide baits, the mag draft, the frog,
Yeah, the fun stuff.
the fun stuff.
The non-drop shot stuff.
Yeah, that fun stuff, or even flipping Cincos up in that type stuff,
Yeah.
or like a flipping rig where you're throwing that creature bait up into that stuff, because those fish should be, especially if it's hot, right? They're going to be in that shade and up there.
Yeah, we just covered that all in the Clear Lake. It's like Clear Lake Patterns. Summer Clear Lake Patterns is what it's called.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be the River to Sea, the 168, the banana one, light trout.
Light trout.
The light trout on there that I would try, but traditionally about this time of the year, Warden is better.
Yeah.
And I'm
like,
really only saying that because we're 55 minutes into a live. The average person's not going to see this.
Yeah. He also asked, how about a chatterbait or a swim jig to throw?
Assuming I haven't.
It depends on the
that
wind.
If that grass is healthy, chatterbait's not fun to throw near trees. If you slow roll it enough, you can actually tick through trees.
Yeah.
If you go through fast enough, it'll actually hit and actually blow out and you hook trees. But like the one thing about chatterbaits, the reason why I throw the custom one instead of which they actually discontinued, instead of the jackhammer, is it has a little bit shorter shank and I can actually bang into brush with that custom or toolies and wind through that, and it won't get hung up as much. It doesn't roll, but that jackhammer, you can definitely just slow chug that thing through there and it'll wind through most of the toolies and brush and go through without getting hung up. But if there's grass, well, there should be grass firing up.
There's some grass.
There's no way that chatterbaits, I mean, you're kind of really throwing them all in that same situation.
Yeah.
The glide baits, chatterbaits, and the
mag drafts.
And the mag drafts are kind of all not interchangeable, but
it's Clear Lake.
Different tools for the same similar areas.
Throw a big bait.
Yeah. Have fun with it.
Have fun. Enjoy it.
Knock it out. What's up, Elau?
Yeah. Throw that big bait. And if that doesn't work, then start going down.
Yeah.
But start with those big baits. I'll throw a big whopper plopper too.
Yeah.
Walking bait.
I'll throw my favorite whopper plopper.
Yeah.
If I was to pick one whopper plopper, it'd be a 75.
Yeah.
Which is kind of I don't think a lot of people throw them.
We need to go, Getz. Getz says, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, we need to go.
Let's go. Maybe we get a couple members to go up and we'll just go up for a day.
Yeah.
Have some fun.
Yeah.
I actually need to do a 4-hour video. So, I don't know. We're going to do another 4-hour video. It'll probably be Clear Lake or Delta. I just don't know when I can record it. So
it takes a lot to
go do it.
To break that down.
We got to get 4 willing boats.
Yeah.
Elau says he's in. We'll give him a camera. Get him and Caritha out there, and then we can watch Elau knots get tied all day long.
Yes. Yes.
And Caritha yelling at him for it. Marlon Carpenter, yep, that is who was hitting me up for the crappie closet thing. If you guys want to reach out to him, then or her, I'm actually not sure what Marlon. I'm gonna assume him. If you want to reach out to him, they have all the information. You can hit him on Instagram underneath Marlon Carpenter on that.
Yes, Elau, you have to be good at something. Tying an Elau knot is your knot, bro.
Elau is learning very quickly. He's gonna pass all of us in like a year.
Yes.
And we're all gonna be like, oh, thank you to him.
Yes.
Nothing like live to make you feel embarrassed that you shove your foot in your mouth. Hopefully the wind isn't too bad at Clear Lake. Uh-oh. I don't know how I just did that.
You deleted it.
I don't know how I did it. I apologize. I just deleted James Hurst's comment. I don't even know how I did it.
Yeah, hopefully the wind is blowing for you.
That wind, but like I said, there's enough launches at Clear Lake that you can change launches and be able to get around that wind.
Yes.
If you have
a
smaller boat or just don't want to beat your boat up.
the last time we had a tournament there, when I pre-fished, I drove all the way to the north end because I wanted to check something out on the north end. I launched, I checked it out. I put the boat back on the trailer and went to the south end.
He skipped the part where he went to Taco Bell
I did go to Taco Bell.
on the way to the south
Gotta
end.
get a snicky snack. But
Because second fat kid gets
Yes.
second fat kid.
yeah, second.
He's
I'm
not
no
fat
longer
kid anymore. He was
I'm no
recently
longer.
dethroned.
Yes.
We'll announce the current king of fat kid later on.
Yeah. But and then I went to the south end and launched and checked out everything there instead of running all the way across the lake. Right. So there's a ton of launch ramps at Clear Lake where you can pick and choose depending on what kind of boat you have. If you really don't want to run all the way across the lake to the north end, go up to the north end and launch.
Yeah, your truck gets 10 to 20 miles to the gallon and your boat gets 3.
I will tell you that James launched and fished that same day, the same weekend. We did very similar things, except for I drove all the way to the north end and back. Our gas, I think I was $50 less in fuel than what you spent.
But I also ran a lot. I definitely had some. I went to a lot. I basically covered the entire lake in
No,
one day.
Taco Bell does not do me
Pre-fishing.
justice, but it was good.
Yeah, that was awful brave to
Yeah.
eat Taco Bell while fishing. Midday break, midday snack. Eating
No,
Taco Bell.
what was brave was when we went up there and we had the gas station breakfast that was in the warmer, and then going to Richmond Bar and having chili cheese fries.
Yeah.
That's a risk,
It's fine.
It worked.
Fine.
but it's a risk.
Yeah, I had a little like potato cheese thing from the gas station breakfast, and then got some chili cheese fries and
Yeah, that's
a beer and
gambling. That's gambling, especially at Clear Lake because there's not very many spots where you could just like Berryessa. You could, or most lakes or bodies of water, you could find a spot if you need a spot.
yeah, you could find a cove if you
You're
need
not
it, or a porta
finding
potty.
you're not finding very many spots at Clear Lake. Now I know some of the spots at Clear Lake,
Yeah.
but you're not going to find these in those
if you're-
emergency situations.
If you're on the south end, go to County Park. They probably have the cleanest bathrooms out of County Park. If you're in
It's a long walk.
Red Bud Arm, go to Why Not To, or sorry, Richmond Park.
Richmond Park. Getsy, it is a long walk from the water to the wrinkle room.
Yeah, yeah, the wrinkle room is you can see it from the water. It's just a long walk, and if that's what you're using it for.
Oh, cowgirls on there. Goat? Yes, we need a goat.
Can't talk about that.
We need a goat.
There will be a future YouTube channel, and it'll involve a goat. And yes, we'll talk about that later. I have $1 million idea. It's hard to explain.
We need a goat.
But
I need a
get
goat
better.
from my
I gotta
backyard
get-
just to mow it down.
I got to get better at YouTube editing before that happens. And Muya, or Cowgirl Maya, is going to be the implementer to help that one out.
Yes. James Hurst said, Toolies, laugh out loud. They work.
Yes.
It's very hard to squat in them, though.
I have 100%. I mean, I have never known anybody who has gone behind a set of Toolies and took care of breakfast.
Marlon says you won't be able to eat like that when you're 50. I'm pretty much
Or
there.
I'm already there.
Yeah, we're pretty much there. Right?
Ain't far behind it.
I got 6 and some change. I've been working strong at this. Keep this this going.
Yeah, but when you used to hang out with your buddies, you talk about girls and beers and going dancing and all this other stuff, and now we all talk about like heartburn and
Yeah.
and
The good stuff.
knees hurting and
Knees
all that other
definitely
stuff.
hurting.
So it's
Steve
it's starting to
says
get
King Island on the Delta is his favorite.
King Island on the Delta.
Yeah. King
That's-
Island.
Is that the island with the restaurant on it?
I don't know. At the Delta, everywhere's a good spot.
Yeah, there's a frog video that did really well that I dropped him off at the bank and I caught a fish while he was gone. And I just put across the screen, where'd Brian go?
Yeah.
Because it was a rare shot.
Yeah.
And if you watch the retention for that video, as soon as Brian disappears off the boat, it is dead flat the whole way around till he gets back on the boat. Then it starts dropping again.
Yeah. Yeah. James says my cousin did this on Anderson Island. Yeah. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
If you got to, you got to.
When it's time, it's time. But yeah, no, definitely go up there. We definitely need to get up there and fish Clear Lake again.
And no, Matlock, nobody wants a oopsie poopsie.
No.
Even if it doesn't touch cotton.
No. Yeah.
Steve Sumner, that is the guy from that's actually this weekend, right?
I think.
Yeah, that is this weekend because we're going to be at Comanche. So that's this weekend. That is Ambassadors. Sumner, put your website on there. Comment really quick on there what the website is that can go on there for the people who are watching this, so I can say it out loud. Have you guys been to Maloney's this year yet? Yes, we were at Maloney's a couple months ago, but we haven't been there yet. Otherwise, than that.
And it was good. It was good to us.
Between my work schedule,
pouring
and
down
our
rain,
tournaments,
we were up there, and it was good to us.
Yeah, it was really good for us.
Yeah.
And that's probably going right now. June is actually my biggest bag on Clear Lake, or gosh dang it, on Modesto.
Modesto,
Gosh dang it.
Modesto Ambassadors Night Classic this weekend.
Yeah. So yeah, Modesto Ambassadors Night Classic this weekend. I believe you can still sign up on there. Check them out if you're looking for a tournament to join into. They have a lot of cool prizes. So
yeah,
I was actually looking at the prizes, and that was actually what I was thinking about for our Open, is kind of introducing some of that. Some of that was like golf related, TV related, some stuff for our Open. I was kind of thinking we could approach some people outside of fishing, basically.
Yeah.
To do that. I think there was like a guide trip or something on there too. There was some cool stuff on there.
Should do a guide trip with straight hook fishing.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that Marlon asked on there, was if we would give away a guide trip with us, which I don't know. It's kind of weird.
I don't know if it's a guide trip.
I don't feel like we're
good enough for that.
Good enough for that.
But we will definitely. Anybody that wants to fish, contact us.
Yeah,
I'll go fishing.
I thought about it, but I also kind of thought it'd be like, I don't know. I just don't feel I'm that good. I have fun, but
the Night Classic weekend is at Don Pedro out of Fleming Meadows.
Yeah, that's it. Don Pedro. I was blanking on which lake it was. So Don Pedro, Fleming Meadows.
No, we don't go. James asked if we'd go live every Wednesday. It all depends on
if I don't do a regular video, I definitely go live on Wednesday. We're trying to do more lives on Wednesday to make it a habit. At least I'll be going on there, whether he's busy or not. I'll be coming on.
Work.
But I'm actually trying to, because I have Comanche is a video. Nobody cares about Comanche. And then we have a Bullard's Bar in a couple months. And no one's going to care about Bullard's Bar.
In the summertime.
I'm going to try and keep the lives going on that. If you guys want to hit me up on Instagram with ideas, like, for instance, wind theories. This actually came from a conversation that I had with somebody. That's how wind theories came about. More than willing, or you're more than welcome to message me on Instagram at Straight Hook Fishing and come up with ideas that you'd like to hear us talk about. And in these lives, we'll either pair a couple of them up and talk about different things, or we'll go through that. It would work. You guys have a lot of knowledge to share. Besides, it would be fun for everyone. So
yeah, I'm 100% all right. Like,
yeah,
message us. We'll go fishing, even if it's we'll take both boats and whatever. I'm good.
Yeah.
One boat, both boats. I'm just there to have a good time anyhow.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of it is we're not fully pre-fishing a lot of our tournaments. We kind of get a little more weekends. We're usually pre-fishing. That's why we're busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it works out, then that's cool. Not sure as far as the people who would be going to the crappie one. We're not exactly completely crappie people.
No.
I can catch them. They're fun. I just don't know the complete inner workings of them. I definitely see them all the time bass fishing.
Yeah. Catch them a lot too.
Yeah. That early spring Clear Lake time though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Crappie fishermen hate us.
That's so fun.
Hate us.
I love all the little flotillas of boats that are out there, and they're all like live baiting and stuff, and then you just forward scanning with jerk baits and catching them and following the schools around, and
Yeah.
oh, it's so fun.
Yeah.
That's so fun. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hit us up.
That went a lot.
Hit us
longer
up if
than
you
I
guys.
thought it would.
Yeah. Hit us up if you guys want to go fishing.
Yeah, hit them up, or yeah, if we're in that area at that time, or we can figure out. I kind of thought about posting where we'd be, like where we're going to,
Yeah.
but we don't always know until like literally the night before.
Yeah. Like, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Wind's blowing here, which is something that we think about, talking about wind, right? Hey, the wind's blowing here. Like right now, we're in the North Bay area, right? Like I have a Luma weld. If the wind's not blowing on the bay,
and it's
we might be halibut fishing.
Yeah, if we have lack of wind and a slow tide, you might see a halibut video pop up on here.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I know Getz will go with us halibut fishing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everybody. Halibuts are so good. Oh, fish tacos.
Yeah, good fish tacos.
All right, guys. That's pretty much it for today. Again, if you have anything, hit me up on Instagram. If you have questions about any of this stuff that we didn't get deep enough into, or if you have better show ideas or more show ideas, I should say, or theories or any of that stuff, hit us up. It's always nice to know what people actually want to listen to versus what they don't want to listen to.
Correct.
So is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, guys. This next Wednesday will be Comanche tournament review. I know it'll be a week from today. I know most people don't care about Comanche, but
there is a tournament.
Should be pretty good.
American Bass.
ABA is the weekend after.
The weekend after at Comanche. So
I might have like 20 people watching.
Yeah, it might be something that people want to watch, right? If we stick them, or if we do stick them, maybe we don't want to post a video. We're gonna post a video.
I'll still post it.
Yeah,
anyways.
my daughter's graduating.
It's Comanche.
I gotta be there.
But all right, guys. Until next time, I hope you get them.